Welcome to Building Kansas City. I'm Doug Wilder, your host, bringing you weekly stories from entrepreneurs, leaders shaping Kansas City. Whether you're established or just starting out, there's something here for everyone. Let's build KC together.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to podcast Building Kansas City. I'm here with guest Kali Buchanan with Interior Designs. Super excited about this. Up till now, it's been an all-male cast of characters on our podcast. So,
hey, I love that.
And the fact that this is our first designer as well. So,
Cool.
So how do you like to be labeled? Because my wife was a designer, and anytime you brought up the word decorator, they freaked out. So what's the clarification?
So I am a registered interior designer, meaning that I have passed the NCEIDQ exam, which is a registration licensure examination. And so there are differences from, the requirements met to meet those standards for life safety and all of that good stuff. So there is different levels of titles and labels. And in the interior design world, it's muddy. And that is because of state-by-state legislation.
Wow, I didn't know it was that deep.
It is very deep, and I could go on a whole episode about it. But I am a registered interior designer in the state of Missouri, and then also in Kansas City area, I hold my NCEIDQ as well. So Kansas City doesn't require the registration, but I went ahead and did it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So let's take it back to young woman in high school.
Yeah.
What's the goal? What are we thinking?
I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I have the pleasure. It's really been an honor. I was raised by an architect. And also my grandfather was a designer as well. He was actually a bridge designer specific.
Oh, wow.
And so I joke that it's like I've inherited a disease. But my mom was a kitchen designer as well. And so
you had no choice.
I know. So it's just kind of this innate ability or kind of a skill set that I have. And so from a very early age, I was drawing floor plans. A lot of our family vacations revolved around seeing famous buildings or homes or touring, different spaces. So in high school, I was seeing in 3D and really knew that I wanted to go into design. And then as I kind of headed towards graduation, I knew that it was interior design specific. And part of that was that I love people and I wanted to create space that people interact with in a tangible way. And so, and understanding textile and all of that good stuff. But beyond that, being able to kind of dovetail the exterior conditions and architecture on the inside. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes from, seeing buildings, seeing space, having dialogues with my dad, at a young age about how space gets formed and why certain things are the way they are and why people interact with space differently. So it was fairly scripted. And then going into college, it was, kind of a dream come true. I relished every minute of it.
So what's college look like for classes? It's not 4 years of interior design, is it?
Yeah. So I started out in Chicago at a design school downtown. And then I ended up transferring to Kansas State University and specific to their interior design department. They have both interior architecture and interior design, and with a few kind of caveats of why they have two programs. The interior design program has deep kind of educational courses on psychology and human interaction in the built environment, aging, all of this cool stuff. And the interior architecture program, fantastic program as well, is, has some focus on furniture design and construction. But overall, I knew that the interior design program was where I wanted to be. So that program actually it completes in 4 years. You can get a master's in the architecture side if you want to kind of pursue that. Because of my transfer, ended up with a victory lap at K-State. So did 5 years there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I liked what you said about spaces. So when you go into an area, you are looking at function, form, and how that flows
Yes, absolutely.
from the tile to the couch to the drapes.
Yep.
It's all that stuff.
Yeah, and how it feels. So when you enter a space, what's the process of entry? Is it comforting? Is it welcoming? Is it jarring? Is it confusing?
Yeah.
All those different things. And then, on top of that, all of the volume of space, the layout of the space, and the materials within the space all affect those things. So it's kind of a holistic, feel.
Do you feel like when you walk into a brand new space for a client, they are not aware of the depth of what you're about to undertake?
Yes. And it's design is subjective, and you are dealing with something intangible until it becomes tangible. And so there's a huge amount of trust that goes in developing a project for a client to be confident that the end result will meet the expectation. And so communication and being able to really walk them through why we're making decisions the way that we are and what we're choosing is critical.
Yeah. Well, I totally respect what you do because, take for instance, even our own showroom, put up these nice, beautiful cabinets. They look great, but until some of our designers come in and load up the shelves or the cabinetry or the countertops, all of a sudden this place just comes to life. It's amazing, really, because you're just like, well, as a guy, especially, I'm like, well, you don't need all that stuff. It's just clutter, right? But all of a sudden it's just so much better than what it was. So it's got to be pretty exciting to do that to a whole space.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Even from beginning when you're formulating what cabinet should be there, or should it be a cabinet at all?
Right.
And then to what goes in it and how does it finish out, and what color and texture needs to be involved with it too.
So at what point did you decide to open up your own firm?
Yeah. So I, previous to that, the company KBID has been around for 9 years. In the last 3 years has been very different. We've been on a growth trajectory, purposeful. But previous to that, so I had the pleasure of working with a fabulous architecture firm that was kind of grassroots, came from the original firms in Kansas City, and that was my experience. There was a lot of government, higher education, workplace, religious, civic projects, and had just the best experience. And then I transitioned to a completely different firm that, again, incredible, totally inspiring firm, but a smaller boutique firm doing high-end residential, modern retail, hospitality, corporate projects. And from there, at that firm, I had the pleasure of kind of building the interiors team. And again, exposed to amazing work. We also had a fabrication division at that company as well. So being able to see beyond just construction, but how cabinets are made, how, artistic kind of installations come together, and how our drawings are so critical to the whole process, but engaging the right folks that are actually doing the work to make your drawings better is just phenomenal. So that experience was wonderful. When I had my kids. So I have 2 kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And when my son, who's 10 now, was 18 months, 15 months, I think, I transitioned. And it was a jump for me, but I've always kind of had an inkling that I wanted to have my own company, or the ability to kind of plan the trajectory, who we work with, who the team is, and have a little bit more autonomy in the day in and day out. I also was very determined to create a schedule and a business that was supportive to my lifestyle and what I knew others probably wanted to. So then, I had a few folks ask me to design their homes. And so, then here we go.
Yeah.
So put together a budget and kind of made it happen.
Just started with something small then.
Yeah. So, and so for a while, it really was word of mouth, high-end residential focused. And then I decided once my kids were both in grade school that, all right, I need a team to help. And let's grow this thing and let's build more commercial portfolio projects. So that's kind of the overview.
Confident during that whole procedure, or you have some, obviously it's a little scary to branch out and do your own business.
Yeah. I feel like the most concerning part was hiring staff, because then it's not, I know how to build a business when it's just me that I'm relying on. But then when I need to support a team and bring in enough work that, supports the whole team, that's a little different.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of an interesting kind of learning curve. But overall, the confidence that I have in our skill set, mine, but then also the folks that we hire that become my teammates, gives me confidence about our work. So then it's a matter of winning.
Yeah, it's everything, isn't it? That's super tough to find those individuals that believe in the same path and passion and culture that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough search.
Yep, it is.
You got
And
the right.
and again, it's personal.
Yeah.
So because we do residential and commercial, the ability to, provide amazing service on a residential scope at such a different scale, and then that same person to be able to provide, design on a commercial project, which is business oriented. You've got to have the right folks in the right seats.
So a concept, does it always start with the drawing? You guys put a bunch of stuff together, or?
Yeah. So, we start a little bit more zoomed out, I should say, where we're looking first at, here's the client, here's the end goal, here are the things we know, here are the parameters, whether that's budget or time or, whatever it might be. And so what does this space want to be? And so we create kind of more conceptual kind of look and feel. We pull gobs of imagery, and we do a lot of writing to support kind of this big idea when a space comes to fruition. And we really do try to make sure every project, regardless of what type of project it is, has a unique custom concept, so that not every solution looks the same, but that it reflects that client, it reflects that goal. And then 2, we really want it to sing extremely loud for that user and that use, not necessarily us. We view our role as facilitator.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, because I've seen some designers where it seems like they get caught maybe in that same cookie cutter mold, or that they're not really branching out, and you go from one project to another and it
Yeah.
looked just like their last project, and you can see that right away when you go in there. So
Yeah.
I love that idea that it's unique to the customer. So really you're going into their space, not yours.
Right.
After you're all done.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I find my staff probably rolls their eyes, but consistently saying is like, it's not my, office. It's not my
Right.
house. It shouldn't be, my opinion is one thing, personal opinion of design, feel, but subjective design that matches your need, your budget, your parameter. Here is why we're presenting these things.
Well, I'm sure you've done some projects where you're like, I would never have that in my own house.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't design that way. 'Cause
Yeah. Exactly.
this couple or this business wants it this way.
Right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I like that whole mindset of putting out that collaboration of parts, pieces, picks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How many of your customers come to in this day of the internet? How
Oh
many
my
customers come to you with the already planned out Pinterest ideas?
Yes. Oh, so much. We actually kind of jokingly coin it shopping.
Yeah.
They've gone shopping again. But it is, because again, design's subjective, and what you want, you don't have necessarily yet. And so people are grasping at straws to get their vision across. And it's difficult to be able to see what is not always there.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can pull an image and say, I want this, exactly this, that's great. But when you really dig in, is that the way that you work? Is that the way your team collaborates? Is that the way that you use a kitchen? Is that the way that you prep? Is that so we love when clients bring feedback. We have a whole process that we walk through with how we validate and edit and critique the feedback to make sure that it meets the end goal.
Well, you mentioned earlier, the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in your profession, you're having this palette you see in your head.
Yeah.
And some people cannot visualize at all.
Yeah.
So now I see where the trust has to come into. Do they relinquish some of that?
Yeah.
That Pinterest pull from you once you get going?
Yes. So typically they do.
Yeah.
We have gobs of different clients and project types. And so it's different. When you're working on a residence, it's a little bit harder to or it takes a little bit more relationship building to gain all of that trust. On a commercial side, they kind of expect you to know what you're doing. And,
Yeah.
and this is business, and we've got kind of an end in mind. But regardless, for us, we really look at, again, how our process works to systematically bring a client from, zero to completion. So we use Revit, which is a 3-dimensional drawing software, and create, floor plans from nothing to finished products, full construction documents, but then also 3-dimensional renderings and everything with finishes that we've specified, in those renderings, so that they can see, from a volume standpoint and a scale, but then beyond that to finish and detail as well. So, yeah, so it's, and part of that is that we have and continue to edit this process, for the changes that we see happening. It may be that we need to make a little tweak in our process to get clients further down the road in the ability to trust us. And some of that, is showing them how we do it. And there is kind of a timeline or a point in time during our meeting schedules where we can tell, oh, they've got it. And we have clients all over the board, but I have so many fond memories of clients coming to tears when it's like, oh, yeah,
Now
that's
I get
it. So anyway, it's wonderful. It's good.
So I'm a bit of an architect geek. So when I'm
Fun.
driving around the city,
Yeah.
I'll stop and take pictures of stuff that I see that I haven't. Like I've literally been down this block 10 times, and all of a sudden I see something different, and I'll click
Yeah.
a picture and send it to my wife. She's the same way.
Cool.
Is that where do you do the same thing? You get some inspiration from that sometimes?
Yeah. My inspiration definitely comes from seeing buildings, seeing houses, being in them, but then also in collaborating with different folks. We, being an interiors only firm, we have the opportunity to partner with gobs of architects, totally different, from more traditional styles to very clean and modern to, contemporary and anywhere in between. And being raised by an architect, there's this major appreciation for understanding the built environment and three-dimensional space. So I like walking through projects, being able to sketch alongside someone or pull inspiration or, come together with this big concept idea. I also, I'm constantly looking at magazines. I'm constantly looking at fashion, Instagram, all those things, Pinterest. So I'm inundated kind of visually. But ultimately it comes, I feel like lately the most inspiration has come from, and this sounds kind of cliche, but from our clients. And, when they come with this issue or this idea or, a project proposal or whatever it is, their goals, it's so fun to dig in and see what drivers are there, what parameters are framing this, thing. And then are we not thinking outside of the box? Like, is the problem that you stated actually the problem? Is it something else? And then, when you understand how humans live and work, that is super inspiring to then create space that acknowledges that better or enhances it or improves it. So,
Well, because you mentioned earlier psychology and age, all those qualifications. So it sounds like you're thinking about all that stuff when you go into their space.
yeah, yeah. And that is stemmed from, also knowing there are code regulations and ADA requirements and all of these things. But beyond that, how do folks live comfortably in an environment that supports them long term? And what technologies are out there? What building construction methods or innovations in materiality are available that you should consider to make that built environment better for you? So those things too, I think, are lovely to be able to dovetail into the design process and truly answer an issue or a problem in a holistic sense.
So I'm assuming the commercial properties, I mean, you would do, so you also designing from complete build to even a space that already exists that they they want a new flow. They want a new look.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, so we're a touch unique in that avenue because or in that kind of thinking because we are an interiors only firm. So, the work that we do might just be tenant improvement. It might be, reallocating office space and saying, you know what, you could be more efficient with this floor plan. Or, we need to do something totally different to establish this identity and brand in this restaurant. Or, this new construction project is going to, offer so much more to the community that it's in, and that it can just look so different. So we try to be flexible and nimble and being able to think for an office space or a, new construction project that is, a $64 million project, all the way to, the intricacies of where your cutlery goes in your kitchen. And I am so strongly just passionate about being able to think at both scales. I think it makes us better designers every day. And ultimately, my goal for our company is that we are kind of an expert at interiors. And so for us to do that, we need to be able to think creatively and to problem solve and be nimble in how we design space for a variety of different folks.
And every single little detail.
Yeah. We have done custom cabinetry pulls. We have done just custom hardware in all the different locations of a house. Totally looking at the whole encompassing project and knowing where you dial up the detail and say well, if this doesn't exist, and some of that comes from my experience at the previous firm I worked for that had fabrication, where we didn't just say let's look at an off-the-shelf product to solve that problem. It's no, it doesn't have to be this, cookie cutter solution. So how can we solve this problem in a different way or in a better way that fits this client and this user?
So you are sourcing your textiles, your surfaces, your materials from all over the place, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we are. So, and again, that's client specific too, and budget and all that good stuff. But we are not looking at our goal is never to provide the same solution to every client.
Well, the last thing I think a customer would want is to go into a space that looks just like their space.
Yeah, right. And so often, people view interior design as a kind of this extra. It's expensive. It's this extra expense that I could just use a generalist for, and we are here to say that we actually add way more value than they might expect. So awesome. knowing how you solve the problem in a custom way is critical to our success.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about your staff.
Yeah.
How many's on staff?
Yeah. So we have 4 full-time interior designers. And then we also have a pool of contract folks that will pull in project by project if necessary. and our team is kind of smaller, but pretty darn mighty.
Yeah.
And we, all of us have been kind of trained in the traditional architecture manner. So we hold our drawing standards at a pretty high regard. We want to be able to dovetail into architecture firms that need, support or horsepower, or a specialist in interior environments. And then we have kind of a diversity in folks that know the furniture industry too, so that we can draw and design with that kind of integrated in our process too. A lot of times furniture comes as this afterthought, and our goal again is we're drawing these floor plans. We know what proportion of a sectional or a conference table or a conference chair should be in that room. And so, you draw kind of thinking ahead in that way too. But so 4 full-time interior designers.
Are they particular in a field, one is really good with the commercial stuff?
Yeah, we are, we kind of all hop around. And that is something that we've talked about, in the future. As we grow, do we kind of look at divisions, if you will, or whatever? But right now, we try to keep the balance of residential to commercial equal. And again, that comes back to my personal philosophy that when you can design at both scales, you're a better designer overall. And you're thinking in different details, level of detail on projects.
Well, it feels like that collaboration would work better.
Yeah.
You can probably learn something from both sides to where,
Right.
like, I could use something I did commercially into the residential
Absolutely.
without it making it look too commercial.
Yes.
So yeah, I would think that collaboration. Well, sounds like it's all women, I'm assuming, or
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming all you guys are as passionate as you are about design,
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah.
and everybody sketches.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always amazed by, that you guys have the ability to draw up and mock up what you want to do before it actually gets started. That's
Yeah.
impressive talent.
Yeah. It is. You know, I wish that it was more glamorous than it is, but it's really a loose, where if we're kind of stuck on something, we all huddle around. We have kind of a big island, and we huddle around the island, and we pull trace out, and you just work through it. And that is, all of us are wired in a way that is, we're gonna come up with a solution. It might be 10, it might be 1, but we gotta get this solved.
Well, I'm assuming that gift you have to even sketch it out is the beginning of something great, and also you can see beyond that. You have the vision to see beyond that simple sketch.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
where you're headed.
Right.
Where most people would look at it and go, that just looks like kind of like a square and some legs, and but you guys are putting it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly a gift.
Yeah.
Fun
Yeah.
stuff.
It is fun. It is fun. It's
Okay,
really
I always
fun.
like to ask this. So, pressure. We all have it in our work life, especially when we're dealing with customers, especially when they're paying us money. What's pressure look like to you, and how do you absorb it? How do you handle it?
Yeah. I think pressure for me comes from a few different avenues. One is making sure that our clients are satisfied, and even that we have kind of internally, they should be very satisfied. It shouldn't even be a question. But making sure our clients are happy, and so when they're not, that is a pressure that I probably feel more than most, and I think that comes from the ability to know how people are functioning and read the room and understand, being able to draw that out of clients, but being able to be sure to kind of right a ship and make a client happy that is maybe not there yet. So that's always a pressure. And that is like a case by case basis. You have to solve it. You have to figure out, what the root cause is and handle it. And sometimes that's with the client, but sometimes that's within the team.
Yeah.
And so being able to kind of roll with it and then see it from all sides and then act on it and make a confident decision forward. So that pressure, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's one of the worst, I think.
What do you speak about unhappy customers? Is it the entire project they walk in and it's just all wrong in their head, what they visualized, or is it just some pieces?
Usually it's minor pieces.
Gotcha.
So that can look, it can look like, delivery was not on time. A product is discontinued. There needs to be a little more drawings for the contractor, which is fee and cost.
Are you on site on a lot of those?
Uh-huh.
Kind of
Yeah, we like to be. Yeah.
Directing the traffic and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we do. We like to be involved during construction. When the budget is not met or expectations don't align with the end result or the drawing effort or the production or we're midway through design and it's not there yet. and a client's frustrated about that. So those little moments sneak up, and you just have to navigate it and address it so that it doesn't continue.
Yeah.
And part of it too is communication. And so I do, personally, I really strive to be very clear in our communications, in our deliverables, in our proposals, in our emails. It's the whole process. So
At times that's difficult to communicate every single little thing on a project.
absolutely.
And us being in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
kind of understand the whole scope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we do as well here, forget about making sure we communicate that scope because we know it'll get taken care of.
Yeah.
And we know if there's a hiccup, we know how to handle that hiccup.
Yeah.
But we maybe didn't, communicate that properly. And now the customer's frustrated.
Right. And then when I usually am doing most of the business development and then preparing proposals, negotiating proposals, getting all the contracts done. And then that transitions, once the project's awarded, it goes to a PM. And so then getting that transition, previously when I would do all of that and all the work and, construction observation and administration and all that good stuff, I knew it in and out. I knew what I had proposed and I knew how to deliver it better than they expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's training staff to care that much too, and how you transition through a project. So
That's the growing pains, right?
yes, for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. And so that, comes to the other pressure is developing a team. Especially, like I said, we are what feels like a new infancy in the last, 3 years of this and really focusing on growing and developing a team that is highly qualified and specialists in interior design. And so, a lot of times, interior design is a kind of an add-on to a architecture firm, as the typical kind of process, and that's where we all came from. And so when you are not the secondary player, but when what our scope is primary in our world, now you hold it with a higher regard, or I do, and I kind of expect that too. So training staff to think that way.
Yeah.
And to come at every project with a level of understanding that we may be extra, and so our value needs to be really understood across the board. So we do our own meeting minutes and all these different things to make sure that we have heard and that we are bringing value to each job.
That's difficult sometimes. I mean, your name's on the door, so it's hard to
Yeah.
train and teach those people, to care as much as you do. It's just, that passion is just always a little bit higher than the staff.
Yeah.
But you got good quality staff when you start seeing that come around. But yeah, it's a long journey, isn't it?
It really is. And I mean, I have so much to learn still,
Always, right?
always.
So you were mentioning all the business aspects. How much of that, takes you away from what your passion truly is with interior design?
Yeah, right.
It's
Exactly.
necessary evil, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And at this point, I have kind of regular set times in the office where it is just design charrette. And so I love that. And that keeps my brain, excited. But the business side of it has been really fun to develop and grow and challenging too. My brain is not wired, like a great, business person.
An accountant.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so being able to learn these skill sets to
Or care.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, my trade has been a carpenter my whole life, and if the numbers aren't a tape measure,
Uh-huh.
you know, I'm not interested. But you need to be on that other side of things. But it's
Yeah.
not where my passion is, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate those people that get so
Yes.
excited about numbers.
Oh my gosh, I know. I know. I'd be lost
Yeah.
without them.
So projects, we'll talk about the Aladdin here in a minute, but
Yeah.
got a favorite project in the past that you just were so pleased when you got done?
So there's several. There's several that kind of highlight my whole career. But most recently, we completed a project for historic renovation of a single family residence, and it actually, the home will be 100 years old this spring. And so it was a labor of love. We were the only design team on board, so we did a lot of, our field investigation and even, looking at landscaping and what an all-encompassing kind of project entails. And so bringing the home back to its original intent. So it was designed by a well-known architect from Miami back in the day, and I believe it was a doctor that built the house. And it's kind of on some acreage and just a really beautiful
It was here
Spanish.
locally?
So it is in Hutchinson.
Oh, okay.
Or just outside of
Yeah.
Hutchinson. And overlooks a golf course, and it's just really incredible. But the owner was able to get the original drawings, the original specs, all this lovely history. And so it was just so fun to be able to dive in headfirst into that. And that too, part of what is so special to me is the relationship with the client, who now is a friend. And so being able to kind of walk alongside a 3-year journey of bringing this house back to its full kind of glory, and pull back some of the layers of new remodels and all that stuff that just didn't fit with its architectural intent.
So it had been lived in up to the point that you got the project?
Yep. Yeah.
Nice. And people had done some
Yes.
remodeling that.
Yeah.
Like,
That
what are you thinking?
Right. Exactly. So yeah, taking it all the way down in some areas to laugh and figuring out how we bring it back properly. And we did a small addition and really lovely outdoor spaces and stuff. So fun project. I could talk about it for days.
It's interesting, the history of how House in Hutchinson got, the Miami architect connection.
Yes,
came
I
about.
know. I mean, that is a whole story that was so fun to deep dive into. And yeah, so it was lovely. And then other projects that we kind of I'm currently really excited about, of course, the Aladdin, which we'll talk about. We've worked on Third and Grand, which is a new construction multifamily project. That one is unique because it was our first win for a new construction multifamily project as a WBE, a woman business enterprise in Kansas City.
Nice. Good for you.
So that was a big, fun win personally.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that one is now in construction, and so it's fun to see that come up out of the ground. And then we've got a couple of great new construction single family residences. We've got a couple restaurants going. So kind of a variety of projects.
Yeah, that sounds good. The restaurants would be fun.
Uh-huh.
Have you done them before?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
So most of your business word of mouth now, you think, after all these years?
The bulk of our business comes from relationships. So, and that is different. Like I said before, being an interiors firm, support. We have our own tenant improvement projects or interior remodel projects or whatever. We also support architecture firms that need some additional horsepower or are seeking WBE requirements with the city. And then we work kind of direct with different builders and so forth too. So our work is kind of a wide variety, but a lot of times it's unique in that we may be working with an architect on a project, with a developer, and we have two clients at the table. So I love that equation.
I bet.
But it allows us to kind of be more diverse and have more of a wide reach, and hopefully build business in maybe a faster way.
So everybody has competition. So will a customer come in and say, I have another firm, working on our project? So there's
Yep.
a little pressure there, right?
Yeah, definitely. We, on really a lot of projects, we're kind of competing for them. Overall, I think that there is plenty of pie, and it's really fun to see what in this design community, what's coming out of it. I have so many great friends in the industry that I have the utmost respect for. And so it's really fun to cheer them on. But when we go head to head, I don't love that.
Well, it's for me, the building community, whether it's home builders or commercial, everybody is going to compete, but it's a really tight-knit group of people, from the design teams to the architects to the builders to the contractors. I mean, we're going to work really hard to get that business away from you, but we can also get together and talk about those projects. So I find that kind of unique. I'm not sure if it works that way in other businesses, but it seems like a close-knit group of people.
Right. I agree.
All headed in the right direction.
I agree. And it's and for every kind of project, it's unique in how it shakes out. And so it's fun to kind of shake it up and learn how a different contractor does different things. And from our perspective, we love working with different architects because we can see how they do things differently and how we can improve and be a better partner to them. We also learn a lot about how to detail, how to design better from all of these partners. And so we really do respect so much the depth of this industry.
Well, working with all these creative, great people, intelligent people, you're just going to learn from all those people and all the different ideas that come to their head.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, as a business owner, it has become even more, opened my eyes to a whole different set of peer group, and being inspired by accountants and, different folks on a business owner level. So my world is kind of opened up.
Yeah, I would agree. When I talk to bankers or commercial investors, and it's not my world at all. And so it's interesting to hear how they go about their day to day.
Yeah.
Gives me some insight.
Totally.
So the Aladdin, you're
Yeah.
part of that. Is
Yes.
it bid stage for you, estimate stage? Where are you at with that?
Yeah. So they are, so drawings are out to the contractors. So subcontractors are submitting pricing and all of that good stuff. They may even have some of those numbers already established. And then some of the demolition will start here actually next week, I think. So
is the goal with the Aladdin, and I've talked to Zach a little bit about this, but is it to sort of turn it back to its glory days, much as possible?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of when we started the project, again, we did kind of this conceptual deep dive with them. And we have the kind of concept statement that's our measuring stick is a new history. So it is this look back and bringing back kind of the glory that the building facilitated in its day and age, its best kind of era. But then also, how does it navigate the future And so, kind of making sure that we're looking both ways. So it will have a little bit of a new flair, but it's definitely nodding to its glory days.
I'm anxious to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the building from the street I just love that building.
I know. And for so long, it was one that you just drove by.
Didn't even know it was there.
Yeah. 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 So I'm really excited about that project.
Yeah, Zach has a lot of energy, so I'm anxious to see how it unfolds.
Yep.
Will be great.
I know. With his energy, it's going to be great behind
energy.
it.
Last question. I always like to ask this, so I ask it of myself often. What do you learn from your mistakes?
So much. I think what comes first to mind is probably unanimous through all, but it shows me that I, ultimately I am human, and to come at things in more of a humble kind of mindset, and remember that I've not navigated every situation, and that the answer or the solution is usually one question away. And so instead of trying to muscle through an issue or muscle through, a problem or a sticky situation, or bury my head and figure it out on my own, we are surrounded by a network of great people. And if I don't know it right off the bat, I know someone that does. So when a mistake is made, I think it's how you deal with it, how you address it, how you own it, and then what you do to put in place to not see that one again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's difficult, when you're sprinting through day in and day out.
The chaos.
Yeah. But I think it's something that I really try to stop, and because I hate the feeling. I hate making a mistake, or I hate kind of if a client is upset, or if we're not meeting, an expectation. And so how can we remedy this in a way that makes it better?
Yeah.
In the end, even beyond expectation.
Yeah, learning moments, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Super excited to get you on. I'm glad you agreed to do it.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm here with Kali Buchanan, who owns Kali Buchanan Interior Design. Appreciate it. Thanks again.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Thanks for joining us on Building Kansas City. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, or Apple podcast and share it. Until next time, keep building Kansas City. Take care.